Hello everyone, welcome back to the Access Sport podcast. Today I've got a really special guest. I've got the head of medical at Barrow, Carly Bland.
Hi, you okay?
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, and how was the journey down here? You coming from Manchester, weren't you?
Yeah, not too bad to be fair. We came on the train, so it wasn't too bad.
It wasn't too bad, yeah. So today I kind of want to talk about your journey. Okay. So I think when we're talking about someone's journey, it's good we could start right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Where they grew up. And what was that like for you? Talk to me a little bit about your upbringing.
Yeah, so I'm from Burnley. Been there all my life. Grew up supporting Burnley. No one in my family's interested in football. It's something I picked up at a young age. Enjoyed it in primary school. Played around with my mates and things like that. For me, that's just something that's always been ingrained in me. Didn't think I'd end up working in football, but it's a dream come true.
I think everyone's got dreams as a kid, and when you actually then get into football, I'm sure that's like when you look back on it now, as you've been in the industry for such a long time, you can really like look back on it with like great admiration. The fact that you're now here, you know, you're on the road to achieving what you wanted to achieve, aren't you? Really?
Yeah. I think when I sometimes don't stand still and go like, this is what I've achieved. Like me, when I was younger, I would have never thought that I'd be in the position I'm in today. And
I think when we're younger, I think this is a pivotal thing. Influences, having people who are going to be very influential in our life, and I'm aware that your granddad was quite influential on your upbringing. Talk to me a little bit about that. What was that like for you?
Yeah, for me, my granddad's been like there since I was little. It was more or less my dad growing up. I used to take myself to football training because mum and dad worked, and then when he found out I used to go by myself, he wasn't happy. So he ended up taking me to training, to games. We'd travel all over, like it was our thing. It got to a point where like in the summer my grandma couldn't go on holiday because it was like, Carly's got football so we can't go. And he's just a rock to me. If anything, he's a role model. He's been there to support me through uni, through school, through hard times, through everything.
That support's massive, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely, without a doubt. And it's still there now, you know, if I need anything, he's just there. Even if, you know, it's literally something small, something major, he'll be there. And
I think just having someone to rely on, because there's a lot of people who can't rely on family members, parents, friends, whoever it may be. And you're going into such an industry where you've got to be on the ball, and sometimes your emotions can be up and down, can't they? Especially
definitely.
As a player when you're playing. And even you as the medical staff, you know, you're a part of that journey with the players.
Yeah.
So to have someone who's kind of outside of it but gets it is great, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And he was never into football. He's a rugby man.
Right.
So he got into football for me, and still now he checks the scores and he's like, oh, you didn't do so well at the weekend. And then he's watching Burnley score as well, because obviously I can't get there to all the games. So he's really got into it for me. He still has some views I don't agree with, but no, we always have a good conversation about it.
And talk to me a little bit about maybe his influence with you in terms of when you were playing. What was that like in terms of, did he, you know, make it realistic for you and say, right, well, you know, not everyone makes it to be a professional footballer? What was that like?
I think for me, when I first started out, he was just there supportive, just wanted me to enjoy it. And I think it was quite brutal. It could be on the journeys back, you know, you didn't have a great game, did you? Or he'd be talking about someone else and stuff like that. But if I did well, he'd always praise me for that. And he was just always there. You know, if I had a bad game, he'd be there. If I had a great game, he'd be there to support me. And like everyone knew him in the team, so like we'd get there early, and my granddad had set up the goals when I was younger. Like everyone knew him for that, and it was brilliant.
Talk to me about when you're going through school now, and you're starting to now see, right, where do I want to go with this? You know, you're 16, 17, you're approaching going to college, university. Talk to me through your mindset at that point. What was that like for you?
For me, I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do. The only thing I knew I wanted to do was sport. All I've done in life is just enjoy sport. I hated school, didn't enjoy it, didn't really enjoy it. I just enjoyed my football. So then I was like, right, like I need to do something. So I was like, I'll be a PE teacher because I enjoy PE. And then went to college, did level 3 extended diploma in sports science. I was actually going to do sports studies because I was like, I don't like science, so why would I do that? Got to the first day and they were like, oh, we've cut that course. Everyone's now doing sports science. So I was like, right, okay, fine. Absolutely loved it. Loved that side of things. Played for the college team, was still playing for Burnley at the time. I was looking at doing a scholarship in America because, to be honest, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Didn't fancy uni. I was told that was for smart people and didn't think that was for me. So I think for me it was do sport, see where you go with it.
I think I think a lot of people can feel like that, can't they?
Yeah.
When they're in that moment where I mean, I was like that when I was in college. I had no idea what I wanted to do. It can be quite a lonely journey, can't it?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Because you really just have no clue what you want to do, and you see everyone else around you, who you think, God, they know what they want to do, and they probably don't.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time, I think we think they know what they want to do because they know what course they're going to take at university, but that's not necessarily the case, is it?
No.
In the future. But talk to me about staying, I suppose, level-headed in that moment and trying to just see the next step rather than looking too far in the future.
Yeah, I think for me it was like not putting pressure on myself. It was like I'm enjoying the moment, because I didn't enjoy school and I loved college because it was just sport. I think it was just stay in that moment, enjoy it, see what you feels fit. When I came to the end of college, I still had no idea what I wanted to do. And my college lecturer said, sign up to uni, and I was like, no, it's not for me. And he was like, just sign up for it. And I was injured at the time, and the person that was looking after me at the college was a sports therapist, and I was like, that might be a bit of fun. So I signed up to uni, didn't even think I'd go. I applied to 5 unis as you have to, only looked around UCLan because that's local to me. And then I went, and I suppose I just thought, right, I'll just get to the end of the degree and kind of see where I end up with that.
And talk to me about like the uncertainty of it, because I think as much as most of us have a plan in terms of where you want to go in your career, sometimes life hits you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it completely changes the course of your direction. And I think if you're not able to adapt quickly to that, you're going to fall off.
Yeah.
And sports is a great example of that, because you could be, as a player, you could have to transfer to a new team, and it could be a massive thing for you and your family. So talk to me about that thing for you. How did you combat against that when you were not knowing necessarily where it was going to lead?
I think for me, it was just enjoying the moment. It wasn't, I never planned too far in the future, because I was like, I don't know what the future is. I never said to myself, right, I'm going to do this degree, then I'll go and work in football. It was just like, I'll do this degree because that's what you have to do. Like, you just go to uni and then you see where you end up. And then just kind of went through the journey, went from one exam to another, to an assignment, and then went from there, really.
I think university can be quite a complex journey, can't it? Because there's so much involved in it. And I mean, I didn't go to university, so I wouldn't necessarily know, especially not about what you were studying. But talk to me about, did you enjoy it? Was it something that was massively different from, you obviously said you didn't like high school and school, but when you got to college, it was more relaxed, wasn't it? Because it was mainly sport. Talk to me then about your university journey. Yeah, did you enjoy it?
Yeah, so uni I enjoyed, but I didn't do your usual uni life, so I didn't go out. I literally went to uni, came back, went to football, went to uni, and then I got a part-time job. But it was just very much like I went to uni to learn. I didn't go to uni to do what most people do. It's like, I want to live the life. I went to UCLan so I could stay at home so I could stay carrying on playing football. I started at Rochdale quite early on in my degree. And for me, that was just something like, I'll just do it on the side. Like, I'll go and see what it's about. I just started off by just literally picking up cones, watching coaching sessions, and was like, this is cool, this is enjoyable. Again, I didn't think anything of it really at the time.
Talk to me about you now. Now you're at the point, you're in university, you've been studying for a while. Talk to me then about you now potentially seeing a pathway beyond playing and what that was like for you, because I spoke to a guy on the last episode, and he was a player in the US, and then he decided not to play, and he decided to start his own scholarships program. So it can be a tough pill to swallow, can't it? Yeah. That you're now not going to be a player, you're going to be something else.
Yeah, I think I found it really tough. So I was at Rochdale at the time, and there was another job that came up in the academy. And the guy came up to me and approached me about the job, and I was like, yeah, that sounds all right, but I've trained them days, so I can't do that. And then he was like, well, like, you really need to think about this. Like, if you're going to work in football, like, you might not be able to play. Like, you've got to think about your future. And I was like, this is tough. Like, and I didn't want to speak to my granddad about it, because I never really thought one day like this will end. So after thinking about it and thinking, this is probably, if I'm going to work in football, then I'm going to have to stop it. And I did. And there are times when I think like I miss it, but I think I miss the team environment, the team sport. And now working in first team football, I know there'd been no chance I'd be able to do it, because you're 24/7 working. But yeah, it was tough.
Yeah, it can be. Did you dwell on that moment too long, or were you quite matter of fact about it? Like, this is
no, it was tough. It was tough, and I was like, but then I thought, if I'm going to make a career out of this, which I want to, I'd got to that point where I was like, I can actually see myself working in football. I never thought first team football, just see where you're at now. And I was like, yeah, this is the time to move if I'm going to move. And I just decided to hang my boots up.
Hang your boots up, yeah. Wow, God, it can be really difficult because, I mean, it's, as we mentioned just before, you know, it's changing direction, isn't it? Because it's in the same industry.
Yeah.
You're not moving away from football. It's just that you're not going to be scoring in front of thousands and winning big trophies, but you're going to be you've now become part of that journey. So there's a little bit of a silver lining to that because you're still, as you say, you like the team environment, and I'm sure you still get a lot of that buzz, don't you, with the team. So talk to me a little bit about that. How important is it to get that feeling elsewhere in your life, you know, if you're not going to get it playing?
I was never going to be somebody that would sit behind a desk. I was always going to be somebody that would do something for a living. And I think for me, like being part of a team, you know, it's tough when you're down at the bottom and you're struggling, but the highs are really high and the lows are really low, and it's tough. But I enjoy it because it's so fast paced. Every day is different. Like you go into work and just something will be sprung on you. A player will come in and go, I'm not fit to train, or whatever it may be. But it's enjoyable. I do really enjoy it.
I think it's nice, that, isn't it? Just having something different every day. Because I know myself, I'd go crazy if it was just monotonous type. And
that's not for me.
It's not the way you're wired, is it? So that's why I think you staying within the industry and not panicking, going, oh God, I'm not going to play, I need to go somewhere else now. You've developed and you've gone into the same industry, but in just a different facets of the industry. So talk to me a little bit about being a PE teacher. How do you think that contributed to where you are now? Is there anything that you still use?
I think for me, I always wanted to help people, and like I thought about being a PE teacher, and then I thought, I know what I was like at school, and I know I used to behave in the sports, the PE lessons because I enjoyed it, but I know other people didn't. And I thought, I don't know if I can do that for the rest of my life. I don't know if I can do that teaching side. But then I thought, I do enjoy helping people, so maybe that's something that I can look at going forward. And now it's the best thing that I chose not to do that. But it was because I didn't know what else you could do in sport. I didn't see, I suppose, probably women working at first team football level, so I didn't see that as an opportunity. So it was like, okay, yeah, PE teacher job looks fun, I'll go that way.
You're a massive part now of helping you're really, when you're looking at, obviously, Liverpool, and I'm a Liverpool fan, and they've just won the league.
Yeah.
And they thank a lot of the medical staff because without them, they don't win that league.
Yeah.
You know, and you're a massive part of a team's success. And I think sometimes, especially as fans, we don't really, obviously you will because you've got the appreciation for it, but we don't really realise how much goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Even kit managers and, you know, all these people, the cooks, we just don't realise, do we, how much is going on while we're in our job. And we complain at the players, you know, why aren't you scoring there? You know, there's so much going on behind the scenes, isn't it? And you've got an insight into that, so it's quite special, isn't it? Yeah,
definitely. And I think it makes you realise that you don't want to work for your own club because you see a lot of what's going on behind the scenes and things like that. And I always say this to my mum because she just doesn't get football at all. But I think unless you're in it, you don't fully understand and, like you say, appreciate all the little things that are done.
Yeah, because it's just a massive thing, isn't it? And, you know, going back to, obviously, when you're a PE teacher and then you're then making that step into what you're doing now, talk to me about that process, because as much as there's still within that fitness industry, football especially, there's slight differences, isn't there?
Yeah.
So talk to me about that.
I wanted to become a PE teacher and it just wasn't for me. So that's why, obviously, when I went to uni, I went straight into sports therapy. And for me, it was when I was injured at college, I was like, right, sports therapy is maybe something I can do at university. She worked at Blackburn Women at the time, so I thought, maybe that's something that I can go into. So then I was like, I got through to my second year and I was like, I don't think PE teacher's for me, but I didn't know what. Then I had a chat with her and then I thought, that might be a bit interesting. Enjoyed the physiology and stuff like that at college and thought, well, I could probably learn a bit more about this. And then I thought, go on to the degree, and I suppose I just never looked forward. I just kind of was like, right, okay, I'll see if I enjoy it and go from there.
Talk to me about the people you meet. I just think that's massively important, isn't it? I mean, you know, you never know, do you, who you're talking to or who's going to say, Carly, I've got this job for you later down the line at a team that you could, a massive Premier League team or whatever it may be. So talk to me about that, because as much as you've been in the industry for a while, you're still at the very early stages, so you've got so much further to go, and someone you could have met years ago could be helping you out 10 years down the line. So talk to me a little bit about that.
I think for me, that's probably started hitting me now. Like, I've been told previously lots of times, like, networking's massive, but I'm great at talking to people when I get talking to you, but I won't just go up to someone and just talk to them. So I was like, no, it's fine. Like, I don't need to talk to them. But then later on the line, you're like, I've seen you from somewhere and I can't think where. And you realise, like, football's such a small world. Like, like, especially in the summer, you've got staff turning around at different clubs, players, especially like League One, League Two. You see the same players moving around different clubs. And building a great relationship with staff, with players is huge, because one, players have a huge say in football clubs. So if they don't like you, they'll let you know and they'll let other people know.
Wow, right.
So I think it's really key to build relationships with them so that you've got that, I suppose, thing moving forward to help you.
I think, as you say, they've got a massive say, haven't they?
Massive,
so
yeah.
I think talk to me about having that approach to your work. I think everyone should always strive to be an expert at what they do, constantly improving, because as much as, you've studied it, you've been in the industry, what you're doing, more than the average person, more than most people in your industry. But talk to me about you then having to go, you know what, I need to improve in this part of my job. What's that like for you?
I think for me, it's knowing that you don't know everything, and like, it is okay to just stop and ask for help. So like, obviously we've got specialists, whether that be a hamstring surgeon or whatever, and it's okay to say, will you just explain that, because actually I've not seen that before or whatever. And I think, I've only worked in football, so some would say, like, I'm mainly lower limb. So if I went to rugby and I saw a shoulder injury, yeah, I'd know what it was, but I wouldn't be as an expert as a physio maybe that's worked in rugby all their career. So I think it's just stopping and going, like, you can say, actually, I don't know, I'll go away and find out. But there's got to be a way you communicate that with players, because they want you to have all the answers there and then.
Yeah.
So it's like, right, okay, well, yeah, this is what I've got now. Let me just go and check that for you, or let me go and do this, because they expect you to know everything. They expect you to, which you have to a certain degree. But if you've not seen that type of injury before, which does happen, then
really,
you've just got to move with it.
And I'm sure there's, as you say about like rugby, like with a shoulder injury, but I'm sure there's variations of a shoulder injury that are just more common from the impact that's displayed in rugby. So what are maybe some of the injuries that you find the most common in football? For
me, you've got your usual ankle sprains that are common as heck. ACLs obviously are quite common, but to be fair, you get a lot of muscular injuries. You don't get many upper limb injuries at all, and you might get an odd goalkeeper one. We've had a few shoulder surgeries in the past, but there's something you think that's not common. So for instance, like a PCL injury in the back of the knee, like you usually get that in like a road traffic accident. You don't really get that in football. You get that a lot in rugby. So it's like, right, okay, you've obviously got to change your rehab and things like that, and they can be complex to deal with.
And I'm sure that's like a massive blow for them, because you're having to deliver that news to them.
Yeah.
What's that like, trying to manage them? Because, there's all different personalities, isn't there, in one team, not just in football, in one team. So what's that like, trying to manage their emotions really in the moment? Yeah,
that can be difficult, and generally like how it'll go. So you book them in for a scan. You usually get the scan in the evening, so it's usually a phone call. I always make sure that they're with somebody, or if they're not with somebody, they can ring someone, because I'm always just conscious of if someone's sat on their own, or if they're young and this is their first injury and you're delivering this news. And everyone's different with it, but I think you've just got to kind of be a friend to them in terms of somebody for them to sound off to, but you've also got to be really professional and be like, right, okay, this is the situation, this is what we've got to deal with, and this is the plan moving forward, because they need that reassurance that they're going to get back on that pitch, and they also need that reassurance that, right, okay, this is the time frame, and this is kind of, right, I'll be back in 3 months or whatever, but it can be tough.
That's massive, that having a plan, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely, and I think they always look at, right, okay, I'll be available for that game then. That's what I'm going to aim for that game. And as good as that is, and it's good to have that aim, it doesn't always work out that way. So it's managing their expectations as well. Because
there could be setbacks, couldn't there? Especially if they jump back into... And I'm sure you'll manage so they don't jump back into training. So especially nowadays, I think it's really big. Everything's like precisely where the vests now. Everything is monitored, isn't it? So
definitely.
I think especially younger players where they're not as mature in the game and everything, I'm sure they want to get back in because they want to prove themselves as much as possible. So how would you manage that? Because I'm sure there's a lot of young players who...
Yeah, and you've got players that haven't really been injured or they don't understand the severity. So like sometimes like somebody will say I've got no pain, and that generally means like either like the muscles ruptured or whatever. So sometimes no pain is like actually the worst thing. I've had players running around the gym telling me they're fine, like, and I've had absolutely all sorts. And it's like they're the tough ones to deal with, the ones that sometimes you want them to have some pain so that they can understand that actually the body's healing. And they just need to take some time. So it's just about, I suppose, knowing the player. And I always try and get to know the player when they're not injured, so you can see what they like, see how their behaviours are, and then you can notice them and adapt it.
And that's something you've learned now, isn't it? That's something you've got under your belt now. Talk to me about Rochdale. When you first started at Rochdale, how is that completely different to the Carly you are now?
Yeah, wow. I don't even think this person would recognise the old Carly, if I'm honest. I think when I first started at Rochdale, it was very much just observing people. Like there was no real like mentor medically for me to watch. So it was very much like me bringing my expertise while watching people, whether they're a goalkeeper expert or like a coach expert or manager or whatever it may be. And it was watching them in their roles and taking things from them, such as like managing people, managing expectations. Professionalism was like a big thing. Like at Rochdale, like it was all about like your kit. So if they give you kit, whether it be the bag, the socks, you wore everything. Like you don't wear the wrong socks, you don't bring the wrong bag. And for me, that's massively stuck with me. Like everyone should be the same. Like that's just how professionalism works. And I think communication was probably a big thing that I learned, is like how to communicate with people and how to communicate with like a 14-year-old and a 32-year-old man and things like that. Rather than learning, I suppose, the medical side of things, which obviously I learned at uni.
Yeah, because I feel that can come, can't it, with when you have more, it is sad, but more injuries come in.
Yeah.
The more you learn. But I think those interpersonal skills, communication, standards.
Yeah, definitely.
Standards, I mean, they can go out the window sometimes, can't they? The more comfortable you get in a job. I think people cut corners, don't they, sometimes? But staying assured of what you know you need to do is imperative, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Going into, especially then now, going into your new job, you're bringing all your experience with you, and that's what they expect.
Yeah.
So what's that like, managing those expectations? Because I mean, it must be hard. Yeah,
it's definitely tough, and it's, I suppose, like when I moved from like the academy system into first team football, like that was a whole new, like I suppose, experience for me. And I think not the problem with university, but I suppose it is it teaches you how to read a book, and it teaches you how to sit an exam, and it teaches you how to do an assignment. It teaches you to look at somebody when they're not injured. They don't teach you how to manage expectations of someone crying on the bed going, like, I'm out of contract at the end of the season, like this is going to kill me and all this. They just don't give you that information. And I think at Rochdale, I didn't realise like how much information I picked up by literally just watching and just listening. And whether that be like somebody getting shouted at, somebody stepping in and taking over a coaching session, didn't hit me until like I started speaking like that, and I started using like their mannerisms or whatever it may be. But for me, it was a big transition.
Did you pick up any bad habits off some people?
I'm trying to think if there's a particular bad habit. I think there's probably lessons that I've learned, but I can't think of one off the top of my head.
The hard way you've probably learned.
Yeah. Look, everyone's not perfect, and you're always learning, and I've definitely made mistakes along my way, and I definitely will make them moving forward. And you've got to take them and learn from them. But I've definitely watched some people and think that is not the way I want to go.
And I'm sure you probably see, I mean, there's a lot of documentaries now, isn't there, on Prime of like, there's Man City, Newcastle, I think I've got one.
Yeah.
And Arsenal.
Yeah, it's Tottenham.
Tottenham, yeah. So have you watched any of them?
I've watched the City one, a bit of it, and I watched the Andy Murray one as well, which when he came back from his hip injury, which was interesting.
So were you clocking some of the stuff and going, oh, I wouldn't do it like that?
Well, it's interesting looking at the different levels of football as well. Like, obviously, like, people just see footballers and think, they're on loads of money. But if you look at them at League Two and you look at them at Man City level, for instance, like...
it's worlds apart, isn't it?
Yeah, worlds apart. Yeah, it's the same sport, but nothing compares.
No, I mean, I know Haaland's on like,
I wouldn't even know.
No, he's on ridiculous money, and that's weekly.
Yeah.
And I think that's sometimes, you mentioned before about a lad crying on his bed, I'm out of contract at the end of the season. That's massive, that, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the big thing, especially like in League Two and stuff, you get players that are coming to like a certain age and they're like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do like after I finish football, where like your Haalands of the world don't need to worry about that. Like they've got enough money to last them forever. And I think that's the oldest people at the end of the day. And I think I've never been a Burnley fan that's like shouted at the players, but I've stand in the stand with fans that are like that. And I think you don't realise like the things that go on behind the scenes. And I always say to people, especially in football, like we should show the fans what the injured lads go through, because I think they need to see like it's not all like rainbows. Do you know what I mean? It's difficult.
And I think, listen, money's great.
Yeah.
Without it, it's crap.
Yeah.
With it, it can alleviate a lot of stress.
Yeah.
But that's not the be all and end all of life. It isn't. And if you get injured, I think the best players, the Haalands, the Ronaldo's, Messi's, they are not driven by money necessarily, because if they were, they would have slowed down years ago. They're driven by the success.
Yeah.
And I think when they get injured, Ronaldo and Messi have been gifted not to get as many injuries as a lot of certain players. But then when they get injured, that must be a massive stunt to their growth, because it's a setback. Especially, I'm sure you've probably faced this yourself with players where they're in good form and then they get injured and they lose all that momentum. What's that like? What have you seen that before? Yeah,
it's tough. And you sometimes get players where they just come back from injury. So I had one that returned. He'd been out for 2 months, came back, he'd played half an hour and someone clattered him at the back and he was out for another 2 months. And you just think you've done all that work with the player to get him back, and then you've got to go through it all again. And the players are just I don't want to do this. It's boring. And you've got to really think of ways to be creative with them. And especially when you're down lower in the leagues, when you won't have as much equipment as the top teams and stuff, you've got to be creative and think, right, what makes them tick? What excites them? What would they like to do? So a lot of footballers like golf. So it's right, okay, so by them being injured, they can't play golf. So how can you make that more fun for them and set goals for them? That's mad, that, isn't it? The fact that you've got to think about so much. Yeah. Obviously, they're injured, but you've got to think about not just your job, not just your personal responsibilities outside of football, but you've got to think about how to make it fun for them. Yeah, it's definitely massive, that, isn't it? Yeah, huge. Because look, anyone can write a rehab program and you can put it in front of them and give it to the player and send them on the way. But the physios that people remember are the ones that went through it with them, the ones that made it creative, made it fun. Nobody wants to be injured. Nobody wants to sit in the stands and watch their team win, lose, whatever it may be. They don't want to, because when you're in the stands and you're injured and you're in a relegation battle, you can do nothing to help. And I've seen it last season, and it was, you've got lads out for 3 months and they're watching the team struggle to keep up in the league, and it's difficult because you've got to somehow motivate them to come in the gym and use a TheraBand with their ankle. They're not interested. Yeah, because I think especially with training, I mean, if you're not, at times, you can correct me on this, but if you're not pushing to failure on certain things, there's not really that much point in you doing it if you're just not putting effort into it. Yeah, definitely. And if you're doing it in a nonchalant way, I suppose that's not really that good for their progress, is it? No, definitely not. And I think that's where you have to be on at them, because some of them they'll just go through the motions. They're not interested. They'll be like, well, Carly said I'll be back on the grass in 6 weeks, so it doesn't matter if I do my programme or not. And you've got to be really at them. Sometimes I feel like I'm working in a nursery, because you're literally watching them what are you doing? That equipment isn't you know what I mean? It's just one of those. You've had lads running around the gym with something on their head, and it's great at times, but other times it's right, come on, you need to crack on. We've got a job to do. You sound like you're quite close. You get quite close to the players. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think that's a huge part of it. I could go in and do my job and come home and that's it. But I think you're getting the player when they're most vulnerable. Whether they're out for 2 weeks or whether they're out for, a year or whatever, they need to trust you. And if they don't trust you, then you might as well leave. It's just one of those things that trust is that big, that you've got somebody that you might, you need to learn about the family, about the home life. And that's all the things that I enjoy learning about, because then you can have the conversations with them. One lad last year, I was the first person that he came up to and said, oh, my missus is pregnant. And I was like, wow. I was like, because I've got that relationship with him. He's like, don't tell anyone, but this is what the situation is. And I'm like, if you can come to me and tell me that when I'm employed here to be a physio. I'm not employed here to be a mate or anything like that. But I think that's huge, because then when you're asking them to do something that they probably don't want to do, they'll be like, well, I trust Carly because of this, and this, then I will do it.
What's that like, them moving teams? Because you've obviously started at Rochdale, you went to Tranmere, and now you're at Barrow. I mean, I'm gonna touch on the differences between them in a minute. But what's that like then, having to make new relationships? Because I know myself, when you're starting somewhere new, or you're meeting a new person or a new group of people, it can be quite hard. It's very much like school.
Yeah.
Going in, because they've all got relationships anyway, haven't they?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's challenging, and I think for me, because I'd gone into Tranmere, and when I went in there, I went into the first team environment. I'd been a bit in the first team environment at Rochdale, but I didn't know, I suppose, the problems and feeling that pressure of it being me, them coming to me for the answers, the manager coming to me, where before I was like just standing watching and just like getting an experience for it and get a feel for it, I suppose. But it is challenging, getting to know all them players' names, and then, players might go on loan, we might get players in from loan. Change of manager is a huge one, because building the relationship with the manager is massive. And then I decided to make the move to Barrow. I didn't know anyone there, and I was umming and ahhing whether to do it, because I was comfortable at Tranmere, but I think I know myself, I've got to push myself, and I don't like being comfortable. I'm like, I need a challenge. I need to do this for myself. And it's tough and it's challenging, and we've not started pre-season yet, so I've not really fully got into there. And I'm nervous, but I'm also excited. And I think if you're excited and nervous, then you can put them two together and it'll work for you.
I suppose it's knowing the difference between being nervous, but the nervousness is the excitement.
Yeah, definitely.
But then sometimes you can cross that boundary into you're anxious.
Yeah.
And it's not good then, because you're not going to perform at your best ability, are you?
Yeah.
So, but I think being nervous is good, especially when you're now going to pre-season. But talk to me about, now that you've, obviously, your very early stages at Barrow, you're about to start pre-season. Talk to me about the subtle differences between the three teams that you've been with.
I think for me, when I was at Rochdale, because I was obviously there quite a while, that was probably the hardest place I've ever moved from, because it was like a family to me. And I was so comfortable, but I knew that if I wanted to progress in my career, I had to leave, because at the time there wasn't a job in the first team. I didn't know if I wanted to work in a first team environment, but I thought I need to try it. And if I don't like it, then I'll just go back into the academy, because I really enjoyed that side of things. I enjoyed working with 16 to 18-year-olds. I enjoyed talking to them about the driving test or whatever that may be. And that was a huge change. And at first I was like, I don't think I've made the right decision here. I really these are new people. They had their own family. They'd all been there for a long time. And I was like, I was commuting, it was long, it was tough. But then I started to think, well, no, actually, a new manager had come in. So I thought, right, okay, well, he's new, and I'm kind of new, so maybe we can get along, sort of thing. And then it was easier moving to Barrow, because it didn't feel the same way as when I left Rochdale, but it was still tough, because I was like, well, I know everyone, the families, this, that about them. But then I thought, again, I only have to live with myself, so I need to do this for me.
The fact that you know yourself well enough to say that you need to do this for you, because a lot of people stay in the comfort zone. And I think we think it's comfortable, and then 1 year goes by, 2 years go by, before you know it, 10 years is gone, and you haven't necessarily progressed where you would have wanted to be. So talk to me about that decision for you. Was it easy, or was it something where you had to think about it a lot? What was that like? I
think for me, I was looking for the next step for me, whether that be, I always want to, I never see somewhere and I think, I can't get that. Now, there might be, I can't get that right now, because it might be the age, me being a woman, them having someone they've already got, or there not being a job available, whatever that may be. But I got to the point where I was like, I've done 2 years here now. Now's the time where I think I should move. So when I got the job at Tranmere, I wanted to be in first team football by the age of 25, and I did it, and I was like, right, brill. Now what do I need to do now? So I spent 2 years there, and I was like, right, what do I want to do next? So I was like, right, I want to be the head of medical. So I was like, right, where do I go now with that? Now I've got that job. It's like, right, stay in the moment, enjoy it, and then see where you want to go there next. But it's tough to leave somewhere where you go in and you know everything. You know everyone. You know the players. Yes, for instance, there'll be a massive change. There were players this year, but I knew where all the equipment was. I knew how all the procedures was and all that sort of thing. but I thought, I can't stay here forever. Like, there has to be a point where I go, right, I need to get up and move. And the commute was probably the biggest thing that pushed me. Like, I'd spend 3-4 hours on my way home. Like, it just got to a point where I was like, I don't want to do this travelling anymore. So that was, I think, a big push for me, which helped because I needed that push.
Draining, that, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
3-4 hours, yeah. And obviously you're coming home in rush hour traffic, aren't you?
Yeah, and it just got to a point where it was just miserable. Like, I wasn't enjoying it. Like, I get to work and I was like, right, okay, I need to leave now because I'm going to hit the traffic. And I was like, this isn't how I want to do it. Like, I was spending more time in the car than I was at work some days. Like,
really?
Yeah, it was just horrible. And I get, like, I could have moved over here. That's fine. But it just I'm a family person. I didn't want to do that.
And I think it's important to know that, know your limits, know what you want, but then also strive to, progress in your career. And I think that's good, because that's you having boundaries and you having standards for how you want to live.
Yeah.
But you're also progressing in your career. And the fact that you had that goal by 25 and you've achieved it. Now I'm on to the next thing, because sometimes we can get quite complacent. I spoke to like managers before who've won trophies and stuff, and I've said, what's it like when you win that trophy? Do you enjoy it, or are you like, right, on to the next thing, we've got to win it again now?
Yeah.
I mean, as much as that is how a lot of these teams are successful, I think staying in the moment and smelling the roses is important.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's obviously said what you're doing now.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is important, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think one of the main things I'd like to touch on, you mentioned this before, being a woman in the man's game. Talk to me about that. What's that been like for you?
Yeah, I suppose it's challenging at times. You're the only woman in the building. You're the only woman that's travelling to an away game. You're on the coach on your own. If there's anyone you want to speak to about whatever it may be, it's tough. You have to become, I suppose, not somebody else, but you have to change the way you are at times because you are in a man's environment, and it can be tough. I'm one of those that it should be the best person for the job, whatever the sex or gender or whatever that may be. But I think at times, I understand why women aren't in football, because it can be a challenging place. It can be a bit of a lonely place at times. Because they might be talking about something that you've absolutely no idea. They can be talking in like really derogatory ways about certain things or whatever that may be. But there are other days where I don't even realise that like I'm slightly different than they are, if that makes sense. Like, I'm just one of them. I'm just one of the lads. I'm just having a bit of fun, and I'm just like, well, you can talk about that stuff while I'm here. Like, that's absolutely fine. But it's tough when you go to places and you're like, well, they don't have a woman there. They don't have a woman there, or whatever that may be. But I think it is getting better. But I don't think it should become a way where we should have women in sport. I think it should just be, if they're right for the job, then they should go there. My granddad's always been a big supporter in terms of like, it shouldn't stop you. Like, if you want to do it, then you should do as best you can. But I think sometimes when I apply for jobs, it stopped me. I've never been told that, but that's just sometimes when the person that's got the job, I'm thinking, well, did that stop me being it? Did they not maybe want a woman in that environment? It can be challenging when you're in the dressing room, because the lads will say things, they'll do things, I've seen everything and I've heard everything, because that's the way they are. They are kids. But if you don't like adapt to that situation, then you won't survive in football. It's as simple as that. If you put your nose up to situations or don't get involved in the situation or whatever it may be, then you just won't survive. And there's always a line, like they'll cross it and they'll know it. But it is an enjoyable environment to be in.
And I think if teams want to be successful, they should want the best person for the job.
Yeah, 100%.
And in that case, it's you.
Yeah,
isn't it? So I think, I think we're in a great time right now. Obviously, Arsenal have just won the Champions League in the women's game, and I think we're in a great time where the women's game is growing, and it's got so much exposure now. It's unbelievable to see. So, would there potentially be a moment where you would want to take that step into the women's game, or are you content in the men's game at the moment?
It's an interesting question, because like, I'm probably not the usual woman in terms of, I don't watch women's football. I just don't enjoy it. I've always grown up watching the men's football. women's football isn't what it was when I played. Like, the standard and the ability and everything else is so much better than it was. The opportunity now for women in football is so much better than it was when I was younger. But for me, at this moment in time, like, women's football will never be as big as men's football. And I want to be in the best possible, I suppose, opportunity in football. So, like, if I was to, you know, I suppose, climb up into the Premier League in men's football, for me, that's the highest point I can get to. Where it'd probably be easier for me to get into the, you know, WSL, because of the opportunity, I suppose, the lack of people going in there.
Do you think there's a specific team that you'd want to get? So you say Premier League. Would Premier League be where you'd want to get to?
I think for me, there's no reason why I couldn't. There's no I think it's just keep going and see where you end up. I don't think I'd work for Burnley because it'd be tough being a fan and on the sideline. I think that'd be really challenging. But for me, I just want to work for the best. And one would say that Liverpool are the best team, obviously, after this season. Yeah. So you'd say them, for instance. But I think it's just going as high as I can and seeing where I go to.
I think that's important, isn't it? To always strive to be the best you can be. Not what's talking about a comparison, because I'm not like aware of that industry is specifically. I'm sure there's a lot of people that maybe you look up to that you might know from other teams. Yeah. What's the comparison like? You know, because your journey is in general with anyone is separate from other people, and in comparison, especially with like Instagram now. We can compare ourselves, can't we, very easily? Yeah, definitely. So what's that like for you?
I think for me, like, I've applied for jobs like higher up in the leagues and I've not got them, and I think, why have I not got that job? There was one last year, and when I saw who got the job, I thought, okay, well, they've got 10, 15 years of experience on top of me, and they're also male. And I thought, right, okay, does that have a bearing on it? Because the higher up the leagues you go, the less females you see. So currently, I think there are 3 teams in League Two. Well, last season there were 3 teams in League Two that had a female physio. I don't know anyone higher up, so it's like, right, okay, could I be the one that goes to that and gives it opportunities and kind of shows that women can do it? But it shouldn't be because I'm a woman, it should be because I'm good at the job. And I'm hoping, obviously, that shows. But for me, it's just keep going.
Do you think more doors are going to be opened as the years go on in men's football for women?
Yeah, definitely. I think it'll only get better now, to be honest. But again, it's like, there always has to be the first, and it's just them stepping into there. You know, you don't see many, like, I suppose, women on the bench in the Premier League. You don't really see them. So it's like, right, well, why isn't there any? Maybe they don't know there's them opportunities. Maybe they don't want them opportunities. Maybe they just weren't right for the job. But I know for me, like, physios can, you know, you see physios at 50, 60, you know, still in the Premier League, whether they're in the background staff and not running on anymore. But I've got a long career ahead of me, so I just want to see if I can go as high as I can.
Do you think if you were playing nowadays, if you were grown up nowadays, do you think you would have had more of an incentive to stay playing because of how much more opportunity there is in women's football?
I think yes, in I suppose, because there's more opportunities out there, but then I also think I didn't have the ability to, like, if I was to watch women's football, I didn't have that ability. I just enjoyed it. Yes, I had some ability and I played at a good level, but I think it's so good to see that there's much more out there for them. Like, there's just tons more.
Talk to me a little bit about, I suppose, I think when we're younger, we can be quite fixated on a career, can't we?
Yeah.
And career, and then it's, you know, relationships, and then it's, you know, family, and we have no real time to just sit and be. And you say you're very busy. You talk about your day, which is, you know, you were traveling quite a lot, and you were getting in probably very late, and then you were probably making something to eat and going to sleep, and then cycling again, and then the weekends for just chilling out because you're shattered from the week. So talk to me about, I suppose, taking that moment for you to just realise, you know, how grateful you are for where you are, but also to just be away from football. What's that like?
I don't think I ever leave football. I think it's always there. I think if I'm not, you know, at the team, I'll be at Burnley watching them or whatever it may be. I'm watching football at home. Like, everything revolves around football, but I don't think I really stand still and go, like, wow, like, I've got this job. Like, there are a lot of people that apply for these jobs and I'm the one that's got it. I don't really do it. I should do it more, but I think I just keep going, keep myself busy, and don't think how I've got here.
I suppose that is good in a way, because I think sometimes we can be a little bit too complacent in that respect. You know, we can be very much like, I suppose, not too thankful, but if we dwell too much on it, we're not progressing, are we? Because we're too much in the past. So I mean, you kind of looking forward to now your new journey, your new avenue at Barrow. What's that like for you? You know, are you got goals, short term, long term? Just set them in that sort of format, or?
I think for me, it's just going in and just getting used to everybody, like meeting the new staff, obviously a different training ground and everything like that. And I suppose it's just settling in. That'd be the first thing, is just getting in there, seeing the staff, seeing the players, new environment, see how I fit in with that new environment, and go from there, and then just enjoy it and work for the next season and see where I end up.
Talk to me about setting boundaries. What's that been like for you? Because obviously you mentioned when the lads have crossed the line, you know.
Yeah.
I think that, and they know they've crossed the line, but not necessarily that. Just, I suppose, when you had your time at Rochdale, when anyone's young, they can be quite overlooked, and you know, especially when you're a novice to the industry, when you first started. Talk to me about being able to set your boundaries to people and just, you know, learn, but also command respect from them at the same time.
I think for me, it's difficult, and I suppose you've got to adapt to whoever's there and change the way you speak with different people. But for me, it's just them understanding, right, this conversation's over, like we're going to now move on to this or whatever, or just, I suppose, put your point across that, right, that's too much, let's move forward with that conversation. And I think obviously it's very different working with adults and working with children, but I think when you get to know somebody, they know when they've crossed that line. And I think that's good when you build them, I suppose, relationships with them.
It's massive, the relationship thing, isn't it? Because we touched on it earlier, but I mean, just making sure you know how players tick, because there's so many players in a team for you then to like, I bet you should keep a spreadsheet, shouldn't you, on what makes each one of them tick. So I mean, what's that like now? Obviously, because you're learning new players now, aren't you?
Yeah, that's what's difficult, is that like, right, okay, you're going in, they've already obviously got players that all the staff will already know. I know nothing about them, I don't know their names. They've just got to remember my name, that's it. And I've got to remember all their names and all about them. And it can be challenging, but it's also enjoyable to do that as well.
Looking back on your journey, if you were to be sat across from me now and you're confused where your direction is, do you think you'd be extremely shocked where you are now, or do you think you, at that age, 17, 18, had an extreme confidence in Carly to get where she is now?
I'd be absolutely gobsmacked, because my goal was just, I suppose, just enjoy it. It was never like, I never even thought, oh, when I finish this degree, these are the opportunities I can get. Like, I never thought I'd work in professional football, because it's just wasn't something that I thought I could do. It's also something that I never saw females do. So I thought, I don't really have like somebody that a specific role model or anything like that.
Talk to me about the non-linear path that you've gone down. You know, I think it's important to, whether you believe in God or whatever, or whoever you believe in or whatever you believe in, God's delays aren't his denials. I think sometimes we can think that if we're being delayed, we're getting taught patience. And you being delayed in certain areas, your playing career being delayed for you to go down this path. Talk to me a little bit about that. I mean, how you can, I suppose you can look back on it now in hindsight, can't you? So you've got the knowledge, but talk to me about how you could stay strong in that moment to, just keep going forward.
I think for me, there's always opportunities out there, and there are always more opportunities coming. And I think it's just, do something that you enjoy, do something that you get up in the morning and think, all right, well, I'm going to do that today. I'm not going to work. Because I think the word job and the word, that can be quite daunting for some people, and they're like, oh, I've got to go to work again. But for me, it's like, I'm going to work again. Like, I work in football. Like, it's amazing. It really is. There are great highs and there are really bad lows, but I work in football. I don't sit behind a desk all day. And
it's a lot of people's dream, that, isn't
yeah,
it?
exactly. So it's great fun. It really is.
I think enjoying what you do is a massive thing, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
And I think some people can sometimes take the easy way, the secure way.
Yeah.
But in the long run, it's not really that secure, is it? Because you don't like what you're doing. And I think that's important, isn't it? To love what you do, because those days where you're shattered, you go, well, yeah, but I still love my job. So even those days when you were travelling, you've still got that love for it, haven't you?
Yeah, and I think that's tough, like, you know, because a lot of physios end up going down the NHS route. And when I did my physio masters, like, everyone was like, right, well, I'm going to work in the NHS. And I was like, that's not for me. I did my placements in the NHS and I was like, this is definitely not for me. But you've got that support there. You've got other people there where, you know, there's no one above me in my job. So it's like, right, well, if I need help, where do I go? Right, well, I've got to go outside of the organisation, which is fine. But if you're in the NHS, there are people around you. You work 9 to 4, 9 to 5, whatever it may be. And you've got that structure where, for me, I might get a scan report at 8 o'clock. Well, the player wants to know. Or it might be like, we've got a medical coming up tomorrow. I need you to be, you know, wherever. So there's that. I suppose you've got to really be adaptable in the job. But I couldn't do a 9 to 5 NHS job ever.
No, God, no. I mean, I was in the Royal in town a couple of weeks ago, and it's manic when you see how, I suppose your job's manic in the same sort of way, but I don't know, it's different. Because you love football, we've grown up watching football, it's different, isn't it? Because there's a passion there. But I suppose they have that same passion for their work. Hopefully they do anyway, because they're looking after us, aren't they? But talk to me about your work-life balance, because, I mean, I know you mentioned that because you love what you do, and you mentioned out of hours sometimes that someone could call you. But talk to me how you try and balance that, because you mentioned obviously you're very family orientated. Yeah,
it can definitely be difficult, and I think you can like easily forget that like you're not enjoying like the people around you. You're like so focused on yourself, because when you come home you want to spend time to yourself because you've literally been around people all day, and it's tough. I enjoy running, I enjoy reading, which are things you do on your own. So that's also quite difficult, but it's just trying to remember that like you've been at work all day, and like the people at home and things like that want to spend time with you, but you're tired from work. So it can be quite difficult, but it's like just trying to manage that, and trying to manage when I've got days off that you're doing things rather than doing things for yourself. So it's tough. It really is. And it's tough when like people don't understand that, like I could get a call on a day off and my mum's like, well, you're not in work. And I'm like, yeah, but I still work, you know what I mean? Like I still have to work, like things need me or whatever. So it is very challenging. It's a very demanding job.
And maybe I think we don't know really where the future leads us. Things can change. Talk to me how you are okay with that. You're okay with where you may lead. It's not certain that you'll be at Barrow for 5 years' time. You could leave next season. You know, things may change. Talk to me a little bit about that, how you're okay with that and just content with right now, staying in the moment.
I think for me, it's like if you look too far ahead, then you don't enjoy what you're doing at the minute. And there's nowhere particular that I'm not in a rush to get anywhere. So it's just enjoy what you're doing now and kind of see where you end up. There's no time limit. There's no like, oh, I need to be there. Like, yeah, I can set goals. That's fine. You should set goals, but then if you don't reach it, then is it worth setting the goals? Because then of how obviously down you feel because of that. But I think in football, there is no certainty. A new manager might come in and bring his new staff and you're just not wanted or whatever. But I think if you're in football, you just get that. You're just like, right, okay, well, better go find another job, or it might not work or whatever it may be.
Do you keep track of your goals? Do you write it on your wall or
no,
something?
I'm not one of those people. No, it's very much just like, enjoy today. Yeah, just enjoy today. And I just kind of, I suppose, I might see a job advertised and I'll be like, well, in a few years, like that'd be a great job to apply for. But right now, like, I don't feel like I'm ready. Like, because like I said, I've got a long career ahead of me. So it's like, right, well, there'll be someone that's like 20 years older than me that'll be applying for that job. So just wait and that time will come.
Yeah, it's important to do that, isn't it?
Yeah, because when I applied for this job, I was like, am I ready for a head of medical job? Like, am I ready to be the person that everyone comes to? Which I kind of was at Tranmere, but it was still like, when you've got that title, you're like...
Yeah, it's different,
like,
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, like you've got that title, you need that. And that's kind of also why I pushed myself, because I thought, if I don't take it now, well, when am I going to be ready? Like, you don't know, do you? It's
knowing that difference between I'm not ready to... I'm gonna gamble on this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna push myself and just do it, because I think when you're in this situation, and especially because you were pretty much head of medical at Tranmere and everyone was coming to you. But as you say, the title can sometimes make a massive difference, can't it? It really can. But I think sports in general, I think, is a very good reflection of life. And I think that's why it's really good for young people to get into sports. And, you know, I think you can learn a lot about yourself and about people around you within sports. Talk to me maybe about 1 or 2 lessons that being in football and maybe playing has taught you.
Being in football has taught me, that's a good question. I think for me, really, I don't take things for granted because you never know what's around the corner. Because anything can literally change your circumstances, whether that be like a career-ending injury or like a new manager comes in and you really don't get along with them, or your sports science and medical department don't get along, which is a huge thing. I think it can be challenging.
That's really important, isn't it, to make sure that we're aware of the lessons we're getting taught, especially from work, because work is the majority of our lives, really. And if we don't enjoy it, then we're setting ourselves up for failure, aren't we? So, I mean, Collie, it's been absolutely fantastic talking to you. And obviously you've got a great future ahead of you now with Barrow, and you've got to get in pre-season. When do you start pre-season?
26th of June.
26th of June, so not too far off. You're going to have a little chill out until
definitely.
Then. So well-deserved rest anyway. So I appreciate you coming on. It was great talking to you. And thank you all for watching. Hopefully we'll have another great guest like Carly in the next episode. And hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.